Greetings and salutations from Why Not Inc. Hi, I'm Regina Gibbons, and we are here once again for our September Parent Power Series, Overworked and Overscheduled, Reclaiming My Time. A few housekeeping items. If you're not talking right now, please put your microphone on mute so that we can eliminate background noise. If you're watching via Zoom, if you have any questions, we ask that you put them in the chat and I will make sure to monitor them. If you're watching via Facebook Live, please put your questions in the comment section and I will also monitor them. Now for the introductions. Dr. Mallory Everett is a licensed professional counselor and is completing the requirements for alcohol and drug counseling. Dr. Everett also holds a PsyD in counseling. Dr. Everett is committed to serving those in need and has made this her life goal. Dr. Jennifer Santos currently holds her PsyD in counseling. Dr. Santos currently works at Jamaica Hospital in New York, where she provides therapeutic treatment. Without further ado, I present to you Drs. Everett and Santos.
Thank you so much, Gibbons. We're so excited to be here to present today. I think it's really important that we leave space for self-care and replenishment, and so excited to be here. The title of our presentation is Time to Stop. I'm stopping. It's time to stop and heal. And we're going to go through a journey. It's not just about what Dr. Santos and I have to say. We really want to hear from you and let it be an open dialogue and conversation. So we really want your participation as much as possible.
So just to start, we're going to go through a few learning objectives, meaning this is really some of the things that we're going to hit as the presentation moves forward. So by the end of this presentation, you have the ability to reflect, discuss, and learn about the impact of the two pandemics. We are all going through the effects of racial trauma and COVID-19. And really, we're encouraging an open discussion for group and self-reflection. Please feel free to express, ask questions. This is a safe space for all of us, not only for us to share some tips and strategies, identification of stress and trauma, but also any strategies or any type of information you want to provide as well. Self-care strategies for implementation in daily life. With the immediate shift that we had to do with COVID-19, we were forced to not only learn new ways to just manage our daily stressors or just manage daily life, but we really didn't take the time to sit and say, what are the new strategies that I need now to really overcome the new stress that is, the Zoom fatigue, or just teaching our children from home or working from home, or even just losing our jobs or just losing a sense of control that we once had in our lives. So being able to hit all these points and coming out of this presentation with more knowledge and just more information, how to best handle stressors, not only just these two stressors, but just daily life stressors in general. So this is a quote that really spoke to myself and Dr. Everett. I think that literature is one of the best things to really self-identify when we don't have the words to express exactly how we're feeling. So this quote by Angela Davis: "I'm no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept."
Nobody fucking asked. I'm sorry. I just blurted that out. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay, so as we continue,
I'm not gonna lie. Jennifer Santos, can I get your phone number? You bad as hell. You fine.
Let me switch this. Okay, so moving on. So what are some things that we understand that we cannot change? There's things that are outside of our control, things that are outside that we cannot just suddenly shift. But what are some things that we can change and cannot accept? So what we cannot accept: leaving no time for myself. So it's very easy for us to move and really care for other people, but really just not focusing on, I need 5 minutes, I need 10 minutes, I need the moment to just decompress the day. So what we really want to encourage is not accepting leaving no time for myself, or not accepting or valuing obligations to others and not valuing obligations to myself. So it's very easy for us to solve everyone's problems, but when it comes to ourselves, it's very difficult to just stop and say, okay, what is it that I need to do? Putting off the doctor's appointment, putting off the therapy, putting off so many things that is really for our own self-care. And not accepting, allowing space to validate and experience my emotion. So being able to express your emotion in safe spaces, whether it's with people or just on your own, being able to just have that moment where you're not worrying about anybody, but really just validating yourself is very important.
So now we're going to show you a clip. This is Alicia Keys. For anyone that doesn't know, she is a Grammy Award winner, singer. She is an activist. She's very heavy in her community. And in this clip, she says a couple of profound things as it relates to caring for self. And so we want you to watch it. And anything that stands out to you, just kind of take note of, and we'll discuss it after.
There's no sound.
I was wondering, I was thinking that it can't be heard. Jennifer, you think maybe you could restart it and see?
There should be, nobody can hear it?
No.
Let's see if that helped it.
I wonder if it doesn't work that way, can we just go to it? Like maybe that would be.
You might not be able to play right now. Let me see. I'm gonna try it one more time. If it doesn't play, then no. Try it again. We can just discuss it. Can you hear it?
Maybe like if you open it up on a separate, because of this shared screen, it might be that. So maybe if we open a separate tab.
What we can do is I'll put the link and then we'll hit the key points after. Like we'll just discuss.
Okay, so basically in the video, she talks about something that I label as a twofold effect, because she's talking about all the different things that she is engaged in, right? So she was stardom, I think, really right from the start, right? That people really connected to her musically and her mission and her goal. And she found herself going all around and having all these obligations and not really leaving any time for herself in any way. And overall, the theme that pulled from it was the twofold effect. And for me, it's how can being ambitious, driven, and really sticking to different titles and having commitments have both be unhealthy and healthy? Can anyone kind of help me with that? Like, is that unhealthy and healthy to be ambitious, to have goals, to be driven, and to hold a lot of different titles? How can that be healthy and unhealthy?
Hi, my name is Cheyenne. I think it's both healthy and unhealthy, because I think it's very healthy to be ambitious and like want to do a lot of different things, want to excel, want to like, I call like the dipping your hands in like a lot of pots, but like something I'm realizing is like you can only give like 100% of yourself. And eventually, if you're constantly trying to like overachieve, overdo this, you know, I think even sometimes we make a mistake of doing things that might not even fully align with us. We're just so used to doing stuff that you start to like not even be able to fully be great in whatever you're doing because you're just so tired. And I actually like follow like Therapy for Black Girls on Instagram, and they had like a great post one day that was like, if you're trying to help and do stuff without being okay, like that's a form of self-harm. So it's like you're literally harming yourself, because it's honestly like you're putting yourself in a cycle of like, whoa, I can't do this. And it's like, but you might not be equipped at this time to do it. So I think that's how it's both a positive. Like, it's not bad to want to do a lot of things, but it's kind of like why, and like what is that energy that you're giving to it.
I think absolutely. You touched on it, exactly what I was thinking about, in terms of when you have all these obligations and commitments and drive, which is really, really important, but leaving no space for self. And that's not a sustainable plan, right? Like, how do I'm the vessel, how am I pouring back into the vessel to be able to do all these things? And a lot of times I tell my patients, because at times when we have this title of parent, sister, daughter, friend, husband, all these things that are of value to us, we say just one more thing, just what, if I can just complete one more thing or get that done, or how can I not meet this need? The thing is, if that's for the here and the now, how sustainable, how long are you going to continue to be able to give nothing to yourself? It's not possible. It's not possible. If you ever rode on a plane, they tell you what, put your mask on first. Why is that? Not because your child is not important, not because your mom is not important, but if you're not aware, if you pass out, then how can you help, right? So really being able to be as committed to yourself in a selfish way, it's okay to have levels of selfishness, right? So all of something or none of something is not good. You want to kind of land in the middle. So what she talked about is what I call the twofold effect, and being aware that something that you have maybe been ingrained all your life to be successful, to be present, to have a title, have a family, can be both healthy and unhealthy. And how do I interrupt that pattern? Another thing that came out of it was she mentioned having times where she felt empty, disconnected, and not in tune with self. Can anybody relate to that? Feeling disconnected and not in tune with self.
Hi, Dr. Everett. Hi, Dr. Santos. My name is Falasha Day. So what came to mind when you asked that question, I mean, there are so many examples I can personally give, but what came to mind is, I guess, the purpose and the drive behind the ambition, behind behind all that you are doing, because if it's something that isn't purposefully directed, and I'm going to speak on purpose as more of a faith-based thing, or a spiritual thing, if it's not connected, I'm sorry, if it's not connected to that, you will definitely get burnt out fairly quickly, I personally feel. And then you start to feel like you're doing so many different things, like a jack of all trades, but mastering nothing at all. And you don't feel that sense of fulfillment that we're constantly, as a human race, just seeking after goal. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to say that specifically. I try to make sure it's okay to not be ambitious, I guess, in the popular sense, especially if it's not your calling or your passion or your purpose. And to just be mindful that whatever you are particularly focusing on, you can excel at that. It may not be what everyone else is doing or viewing, even as something worth seeing.
Thank you so much for that comment. I think it's right on target. I think that's leaving space for self, right? I'm going to leave space for being able to set the boundary that this may not be what I want and my desire, right? But I'm going to choose to participate in things that I desire. Now, that's one element of it. And then we have another side, right? Because culturally, a lot of times, being people of color, we operate in the form of a collective. And so that collective helps to support maybe ideals and value systems and sets, right? So we have these things that we may not fully buy into, but for the good of the group, we participate in it. And we have that pressure of for the good of the group. And I think imbalance, right? So it's really about protecting that space in balance. So I'm not totally ignoring the customs of my culture, the customs of my family, the value system of my family, but I have to do it in my way, and being able to feel confident in that and know that setting that boundary is a sustainable plan for you. And ultimately, if you are happy about what you're participating in, it's going to affect the collective, right? So it's reframing the commitment and reframing the space where you don't just exist, but you actually live, right? Because if you have too many things piled up, you can get into a framework that you're just existing day after day after day after day after day, but you're not living. I was in a meeting with a colleague, and she brought to my awareness, which I think was really, really important. And I'm hoping that I bring this to others. Do you wake up in the morning and already think about all the things that you need to get done? Like, one of the first thoughts in your mind is, I have to do this, 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 and this. And when you start off in that way, you already feel behind. Like, I just woke up, my eyes are open, my feet are not on the floor, and I already feel behind. What does that do? What angst does that put? Anxiety in your spirit and your heart, that you didn't even get out of the bed, you didn't take a shower, you didn't brush your teeth, you didn't even go to the bathroom yet, and you already feel behind. So she encouraged me, and I'm going to encourage you, I'm passing it on like a baton, right? To leave space just to be. I know. I said something that was like mind blowing, throw the paper. What are you talking about, Lisa? We don't have time for that, right? We don't have time for it. Yes, you do. You have time for self, leaving space to be. And what does that look like? So maybe it's not 30 minutes. Maybe it's not laying in the bed for 30 minutes and just being with oneself. But really, if it's 2 minutes, I'm just going to be acknowledged that I woke up this morning. And in that space, whatever that looks like, if you have a religious spirituality and you're talking about saying a prayer, that you woke up in gratitude, just kind of thinking about the fact that I'm here today and I'm able to see, or I'm able to smell, or I'm able to, like, just being connected in that space, then you can go for your list. I'm telling you, it's life changing to be able to leave space in the morning just to be, to take some of that angst out of your day and get to it once you put your feet on the floor. So I'm going to make it 2 minutes. Then I might extend to 5 minutes, and who knows, I might get funky with it and do 10 minutes. I'm not sure, but just really try to work on it, one foot in front of the other, of just leaving the space to be and not feeling all this pressure and angst when you first wake up, really just allowing yourself to be in gratitude during that time period. Another big piece about the video was that she went away on a trip. I think it was for about 2 weeks. She left everything, all the commitments, all the tours, all the everything, and she went away on this trip, and she went by herself. Now, that may not be what we could do and just get up and go, and maybe we can, maybe we can't. But what it was that she took a break. Now, you might say, okay, as soon as you brought in Dr. Everett, Dr. Santos in here, and they're supposed to be doctors, and they're telling me to take a break, and I knew that before I walked into this Zoom meeting. What are you talking about? Taking a break. How many, myself included, do you take the day off? You say, I'm taking off, vacation, sick, I'm going to shut it down. And on your day off, you're filling up with tasks that you have to get done. You fill up that schedule with everything and anything, right? So you may not be doing whatever your normal job function is. Job also including schoolwork, right? I'm off. But are you really pouring into yourself? Are you really doing that self-care, or are you just off on paper because you filled it up with a list? She took a break. During that 2 week time, she took a hiatus, and she was just like one with herself and really getting connected, because there was a piece in there that she talks about being disconnected. Her soul was disconnected from her body. I'll say that again, because that was just really, her soul was disconnected from her body. So she's just going throughout, and just the next appointment, the next obligation, the next title, the next task, the next thing, and not really connecting to the essence of who she is. So it goes back to that idea that we are existing and not living. And so therefore, what is the point? What is the point? And is that sustainable for your overall happiness? What does that do to you both somatically? And when I say somatic, that means your physical body, right? And also psychologically. Is that a sustainable plan? How do we create space for self? How do we make ourselves a priority as we should be? Is that a sense of really respect for yourself, right? Respect for the idea. When you have respect for someone and you honor that person, what do? You're willing to give and do and show up and be present. So then my question is, if it's difficult for you, why is that? Why is that? And how do we interrupt the pattern?
So as we are continuing to discuss just more for self-reflection, I want to go back to what we mentioned in the learning objectives. We're living amongst two pandemics, COVID-19 and the social unrest of what's happening in our communities. We, by nature, our protective nature will point out always the negative, all the negative things that are happening. And this is just to allow us to have some type of coping and allow us to prepare for the worst. But one of the things that we do want to reflect on is resiliency and post-traumatic growth. So we're in this, we're in the thick of it. What's next? So a quick recap on resiliency is the ability or capacity for the person or community to overcome or bounce back after exposure to trauma. We've noticed communities coming together, individuals from all walks of life coming together to really support one another and really show what resilience looks like. And with that is being able to access resources and being supported by one's community or environment. This is very important. As human beings, we're not meant to be alone. We are packed animals. We replenish from one another. We support one another in ways that you'll be surprised, just even speaking on your experience, how it could help any number of people, not only just in this panel, but even in your own daily life. So being able to understand that we all have that opportunity for resiliency and really just understanding where you can outsource that. And post-traumatic growth. So when the trauma ensues, when we have this stressor, this never-ending stress, how do we transcend? How do we move forward? How do we utilize what we know as coping to move forward? So confronting historical and contemporary trauma, not only in my experience in working with clients, but also speaking just to previous generations from not only my personal experience, but other people, we are facing a lot of the unrest that has happened throughout many decades before us. And what does that mean to us, especially in these contemporary times, is not only understanding what's happened before us, but how that continues to affect us. There's a biological term called epigenetics, and epigenetics describes how our biology changes when we go through a stressful and traumatic situation. So what does that do for our next generations moving forward, and how we can be that agent of change when we decide to have children or raise our nieces, nephews, and any generation after us? What can we do to be that agent of change? And understanding the trauma. I think that as the generations move forward, we are more open about discussing stress and trauma. We're more open with discussing therapy and what we can do to really help us process exactly what's happening. So understanding the trauma and stress, releasing our pain in healthy manners is really what's going to help us, again, at the end, transcend the trauma. And with transcending, it's also understanding how our not only mental and emotional, but physical responses to trauma and stress. We highlight 3 responses in this presentation, but this is just a small sample of whatever response you emotionally or physically can manifest. So one of the things that is our initial reactions to trauma and stress: exhaustion, confusion, sadness, anxiety, agitation. If at one point you feel very upset and frustrated for the things that you usually wouldn't feel frustrated about, that could be a response to trauma and stress. Disassociation, feeling like you're not really present. So that's where grounding strategies, really being more present in the moment, helps. Severe responses, continuous distress without periods of relative calm. That's basically describing 2020. We are in 2020 where it's a continuous period of distress. And what does that mean for our neurological system, for our biological system? What does that mean for our digestive system? There's plenty of things that we'll address moving forward, but you know, there's also a lot of literature on how our brain composition changes when we go through a very traumatic and stressful situation. Delayed responses to trauma. So we may see someone that has gone through a very difficult and traumatic experience, and they may not be responding, quote unquote, the way most people would. But there's no time limit on when stress and trauma responds in the body, and some of the delayed responses we see: persistent fatigue, sleep disorders, nightmares, fear of the reoccurrence. So that constant feel of tiredness, like even though you continue going along your day, but still feeling like absolutely exhausted. Kind of a new term. It wasn't really out when myself and Dr. Everett were in school, but the idea of a functioning depression or a functioning anxiety, it's those type of persistent fatigue and stressors that could happen. So just to be aware and look out when it comes to your physical responses to trauma and stress.
So I want to start with this question. So Dr. Santos and I, you know, are throwing out this thing like the 2 pandemics and trauma and stress. Would you label this time? How would you describe this time period of 2020? How would you describe this current state that we're in? Are you connecting with it that it is a trauma? Are you connecting that we are in a sense of crisis? Are you thinking that we should just bury our head in the sand and keep pushing and have tenacity and have resilience? Are you connecting that it is significant and has an impact?
I definitely think like, and just to repeat the question again, you're asking like if we feel like we are at a time of basically 2 pandemics, correct?
Yeah, 2 pandemics. And also, are you connecting, if you do label it as 2 pandemics, right, or 2 significant events happening at the same time, would you describe it as a trauma? Would you describe it as a stressor?
I would. I actually think that there's like, I've heard the phrase like shared trauma a lot of times being used. And I feel like even with like the sense of not rest, the sense of a pandemic, and then like looking at what is happening like within the Black community, like looking what's happening with just folks who are of color as a whole, like hearing like something I've been known that's been happening, but now, you know, finding out that there's hysterectomies being given out the border, and it's like literally just kind of opening your phone, it's like, oh, that's nice, just more stuff. And I feel like it, like at least for me personally, it came to a point where it's like, I think that we have so much worldly shared trauma happening on top of our own personal lives. And I think that's kind of where it became like, I had to kind of like, just like stop a lot of stuff, or I was like, not even I was like, I had a breaking point, because it's like, you have all these things happening just in the world. Like you can't go out, you can't see maybe people that you're connected with. You're watching literally videos on social media go around of people dying, you know, by the hands of police brutality. Then it's like on top of maybe like you going through your own personal family death, you ending a personal relationship, you having trouble with your job. So it's kind of like trying to compartmentalize, like, I feel like for me personally, personal life mixed with world, and then again, like as like someone who's like a Black woman in America, realizing like all of them kind of intersect with each other. So I do feel like it's a trauma because it's like I described it to I think someone yesterday. It's like, where does the world, you know, trauma begin, and where does my personal stop? Because it almost feels like they're just kind of like this. So that's just my take on it. I feel like it's just like a giant pot, like a gumbo of just a lot of stuff happening, and like not even identifying what is a world and what is mine.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, you really described it very just right on point, right? Everything is interconnected and it's bleeding into one thing or the next, right? We went from being able to have different spaces and maybe different stressors or even the same stress in different spaces. But now, what are we sitting right now in our homes or in our, where we live and doing work things and everything's in the same space and you can't turn it off. The blessing about social media, the blessing about this platform is that you get information instantly, but we have been experiencing what they call vicarious trauma, right? So even if it's not happening to you in the moment in the space, you are seeing people be murdered and killed, or you're seeing lines of people in need, right, for food and shelter and all these different tremendous life changes, right? And so recognizing that the reason why I asked the question is really at times we go through things and through our resiliency, we get so connected on like we made it to the other side, but not acknowledging what we're going through. And that is a key point in terms of really being able to deal with something. You have to acknowledge it, because if you don't acknowledge it, then you don't take the steps to actually start to heal it. It becomes almost like a normal state, and it's not normal, right? And being okay with saying, this is not normal. I'm overwhelmed or I'm impacted in some fashion or form, and I need space of healing. I need people. I need professional help. I need my family. I need something, and really being able to fill that in. And that's another level of self care. So thank you so much for sharing that. We go into what we call like active steps to really being able to address what's happening in the two pandemics. Not only are we seeing social unrest that either directly impacting us or as human beings is impacting us, we also are going through this COVID-19 and the health crisis, right? So even if you were not affected, meaning diagnosed with COVID-19 and having to go through that journey, you may know someone that has, or just seeing it on TV, seeing people be furloughed, lose their job, lose their way of providing for their families. Um, Change that's happened in terms of parents having to be teacher and parent, and how do we separate, right, those spaces? Or really, honestly, I am a doctor. I'm not smarter than a fifth grader, not smarter than a fifth grader. So if I had to do fifth grade work, that may be a problem, right? So really just even having that pressure of trying to wear all these different hats or trying to get the resources or trying to get testing, there are so many stresses coming at us. And so really acknowledging it and labeling it is really, really critical. Another thing, and we adapted these from Ken Hardy. He has the 8 steps for coping with racial trauma, healing the hidden wounds, right? Because a lot of times we suppress these things that we're going through with the idea that we have to like bury our head in the sand and just keep pushing and keep moving, because if we acknowledge it, then we will fall apart. But I say acknowledging to give space for healing and really give space for support and give space for help. And we've been seeing that as well in communities coming together and just really working together. Creating space for self. Not most of, myself included, you have a list, you have things that you have to get done. First thing that if you have to take something off the list is something for self. That can go tomorrow, or I can just eliminate that. We eliminate that area of self. And I'm saying that we need to start with that area of self, because this is your temple. This is the way at which your vessel to get the things done that you are looking to get done. So you have to protect it, you have to preserve it, and you have to pour into it. Storytelling, telling your story, not suppressing what has happened or what is happening, saying that this is what's going on, because you never know who's in the room. I'm so happy that we've had participants participate and really share some really intimate things, because you never know who's in the room that can give of help, right? So it's not just a simple, like someone's just in my business. It's really about giving voice and giving life and taking it out of you. And that is verbal form, or sometimes that's written form as well. I often encourage my patients to journal. Journaling helps not only to express what is going on in your world, but it also, when you look back over time, you can say, well, where I was March is not where I am in September. I have taken steps, right? And active steps, and really being seeing that progress that sometimes is hard to see when you have so much coming at you at one time. Another one is rechanneling rage. So anger is a secondary emotion. And what does that mean? It's rooted in other emotions. It may be rooted in fear. It may be rooted in frustration. It may be rooted in sadness, and it comes out in anger. So how do we rechannel? How do we use a different what is happening to activate a response? And so we want to not necessarily be reactive, but we want to respond. And the difference between being reactive and responding is, in reaction, it's a go, not a thought, but a go. But in responding, we're taking time to say, okay, what is our end goal? And then how do we mobilize to make that happen? So again, affirmation and acknowledgement, right? Developing a sense of understanding and recognizing that this is a stressor. It is okay. I say it again. It is okay not to be okay, right? Because that's your moment in time. That's your here and now. That does not mean that that's your forever. Not being okay right now doesn't mean that that's where you're going to end. Starting my day not being okay doesn't mean that my end of the day doesn't have to be not okay, right? So I acknowledge and I affirm, and then I activate some of the other coping skills to change the direction of where we are. So 2020, in my descriptive, has been, there's no other clinical term to say, but a hot mess, right? It's been a hot mess with a lot of different stresses coming consistently. That does not mean that that's going to be the projection of my life. And I know that I feel empowered enough that I can change it. And there has been good things, and I can redirect it, and I can help and support others.
So we're going to take this time for a little bit more discussion, just more time to discuss any type of stressful situation, anything that's come to mind as the presentation has gone, anything in particular that anybody would like to discuss that nobody has been able to share yet.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Bienemy. I would like to first say to Dr. Everett, thank you for the last statement you made after, I believe that was Ms. Jacobs speaking about it's not of the norm and we shouldn't feel like it's of the norm. Before the pandemic, like I didn't watch the news a lot because I always felt like it was so much negativity. And, you know, most times when you're getting up in the morning, most people turn on the news because you either look at the weather, but you're always hearing about the breaking news and all these things, like so much negativity in the morning to start your day. I just felt like it just puts me in a bad mood, or I feel very emotional about things. Maybe it's the Pisces in me or whatever, but you know, I just felt like I didn't watch a lot of news because of that. And then yes, when the COVID hit, you know, I felt like personally for myself to already be away from my family, but to feel like now I have restrictions on why I can't see my family and certain things like that. Then what's going on in our community, within the world, within politics, it was like things back to back. It's always something. Then, you know, issues that became personal with my job per se. And then, you know, just within my personal life, within my personal relationships, within the things that I'm keeping up. Like I believe each area of this workshop, I feel like I really have had the opportunity to take something away to help in different areas. Because that whole time to reflect with yourself for self-care, like I can be so involved in all these different things that I'm in, I don't even take the time to have my own personal time to myself and take that moment. So I would just like to say that just in case if I don't get a chance to speak once again, but I do thank you for helping me realize that it's not okay to just say that this is of the norm, because that's where I got ready to start feeling like, you know what, this is 2020, anything is possible, like for real, like everything is happening. But like emotionally, I'm just at the point to where I felt like I was about to just start accepting everything negative that came, to just say, you know what, it's normal now, it's normal now, it's normal now. And it's because it just keeps happening. But I do thank you for that. So I will have to find some way to to make sure I don't get in that place and think that, you know, moving forward.
Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. And that's really what we intend for everyone to just, you know, not everything that we speak about is gonna speak to everyone. So if someone can take something out of this presentation and really just implement it, and just for your well-being, because if you're not okay, no one else around you is going to be okay. None of your loved ones will be okay. So they want to see you at 100% or as close to it. So that's great that you're able to now identify that and be able to take the time for you now. That's great. Anybody else would like to share before we continue?
So for me, what's been the most challenging during this time? So I grew up, you know, super pro Black. My mom was, you know, being raised in the Jim Crow era, and she's a hothead, and so I was raised to be very vocal and just proud of my Blackness, and so during this time that we've always known these things were happening, but I think it just infuriates me even more that the world is seeing what's happening and it doesn't seem to have made much of an impact. And I'm not being probably a little bit more pessimistic about that. But what's been, I feel like, more traumatizing is just being overwhelmed with how to prioritize all of these different events and things and situations and feelings. And then once you prioritize, how do you cope and manage within that mindful moment, and what's enough or not enough before you have to, you know, move on to something else that you need to prioritize. And so the back and forth feelings of just, I'm not doing enough, or I'm overindulging in my healing, in a sense that if I take that day off, I'm taking that day off. But it feels like then it starts to be, you're being lazy, you know, you need to do more. And so I think that's just been the biggest issue that I've been struggling with, trying not to get so riled up and angry about what's going on, but angry enough that it stays at the forefront, and that I am actively moving towards how to put out my contributions, but not to the point where I'm having negative thoughts about wanting to just, you know, go off and fight someone, as an example. But yeah, it's been up and down, touch and go. And like the presentation said, there's no, I guess, there's no right way to respond. But we do know that there might be a, for lack of a better word, a wrong way or a harmful way to respond. And so even if we haven't found the right recipe on, or a flexible mechanism, on a coping mechanism, being mindful of the areas, our boundaries, and where not to go, and I think is a good start.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to touch on two things that you mentioned about that rage and reacting, right? So rechanneling that anger, and that's something that we discuss and we'll continue to discuss, is essential, because since anger is so innate, that being able to now understand why this is affecting us so much and how we can utilize that energy to transcend and move forward. And the other thing is also, you mentioned about your mother, and that's perfect, because when it comes to trauma and stress, not only is that passed down generational, but also what the values that we get taught is that we place our work ethic and equate that to our value. And that's just not true, because we are allowed to take a day off. Why we feel so guilty is because we are taught from a very early age that what we produce is literally what our value is. And that's not true. We are just as valuable the day we take off, and the work will be there. And unfortunately, jobs can replace you very quickly. So being able to take the time to value yourself and say, you know what, I need the day. Because, for example, myself and Dr. Everett, we work with clients. So if we are not at our top game, then we are not going to be as our best to serve our clients and our patients. So really being able to take that time for yourself is important. So anyone else before we move on? So again, we identify with quotes. There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. So you can definitely help with sharing your story, or just take the weight off your shoulders by being able to express yourself and yourself emotionally. So seeking support. Seeking guidance and support from others will help to facilitate positive coping and management of stress and trauma responses. Like I said earlier, we need each other. We are pack animals. We function better, and we function at optimal level when we are cohesive and working as a unit. So being able to seek support and guidance from anyone that you feel comfortable with, and anyone can learn from anyone, anywhere. So really just seeking that guidance and support is very important.
And so empower yourself through resistance, right? So we talk about a little bit channeling the hurt, anger, helplessness, hopelessness into social change activities. So that's a little bit of what you spoke about, of taking this emotion that we have, which is secondary emotion, and really putting it to use, right? So I get so enraged by seeing the continuous injustice over and over and over again that I cannot be silent. Like, this is one of the things I cannot accept, right? So I'm not accepting the silence, but I have to also be genuinely connected to me. So I may not be the person that is on the front lines of the protest. Does it mean that I don't care as much as the other? No, it means that whatever my skill set, my talent, and the way I want to channel the rage and the anger is just as important, because we need everyone in different avenues of the fight, right? I'm going to take my emotion and do something that's organically me. So it may be donating for bail. It may be having a conversation with a colleague to get them to open their eyes to certain things that they were maybe blind to. It may be having and keeping the conversation going amongst my friends. It may be utilizing my social media platform to continuously keep the hashtag going, now that it's been some time and some weeks, right? So I'm not going to put a pressure on me that it has to look this way. This is your journey. This is your truth. And utilizing that to be a part of the movement in a very genuine, connected way. Additionally, as a collective, we have a wealth of knowledge within our communities, right? Like this organization alone, having these monthly presentations to bring information, to bring a space of conversation, to bring a space for healing and strategy. This tapping into what's right in front of us. Sometimes we are so task driven, that we're not paying attention that there are people and places and spaces and organizations that want to assist. So tapping into those resources to stay connected to the community, so that you can channel your rage and your anger and your feelings of helplessness and hopelessness, right? Because when we feel like we don't have optimism helps us continue to feel like we can make it to the next day or the next moment or the next second. Even sometimes that optimism can be affected by the external stressors that are continuous. And so we just have to rechannel that. I have a choice. I'm no longer going to give power to other things. I have a choice on how I'm going to end my day. I have a choice that I'm going to show up to this presentation and maybe catch a nugget. I have a choice that tomorrow I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. Do not allow anyone to rob your choice. You have a choice no matter what your circumstance is.
So we discussed a little bit about anger and rage. And one of the things that we really want to emphasize as much as possible is really rechanneling rage, because just like hunger, love, rage is innate. So rechanneling rage, individuals can learn to gain control of their emotions and not let emotions consume them. One of the things that I hear from a lot of people is the understanding of, if you allow someone to bring out that rage, they have a power over you, they have that control over you. So being able to understand that it's okay to be angry, but what are we going to do with that emotion, with that power, with that energy, and how is that going to affect our decision making moving forward? And this is an important step because it empowers people to keep pushing forward after adversity. We're angry about everything that's going on, what we see in the news, what we see in the media. What are we going to do about it now? That's what really we should be asking moving forward. What are we going to do for self-care? If it's even just not watching the news so much, getting off of social media break, so many things that we can do to really just rechannel that rage, just so that we can better express ourselves and really understand our emotion.
So I really, really, really love this photograph, right? So we've been talking in various slides about really pouring into yourself. And this is like literally, she is pouring and watering and just like nurturing her own spirit and her own soul, which I think is really, really important. And earlier I mentioned this idea of respect, right? The focus is to increasing respect for ourselves. What does that mean? Like sometimes I think maybe a foreign idea that respecting yourself is caring for yourself and loving yourself. And if someone asks you, of course I respect myself. Of course I love myself. Okay, so how does that translate to tangible items? What are you doing in your daily life to show that respect and that honor? And it can be the 5 minutes in the morning by just being present and aware. I'm going to take additional 10 minutes in the shower because I deserve that. Or I'm going to leave and carve out this space and make it a priority. Even though we have competing priorities, I'm going to make it a priority to uphold this space that I created. So I'm going to participate in something that I enjoy. I'm going to eat something I enjoy. It's my favorite show for the week I'm going to do. I'm going to guard this like I would guard it for someone that I really, really cared about, and making it a priority and showing ourselves that respect. So really looking at, I felt like it was a really good way. Once you put respect on something, that's like an intensity. I respect this person. So in respecting ourselves, it's increasing or incorporating that self-care and that self-love.
So now we're going to go over some self-care tips. As Dr. Everett had mentioned, like really just having respect for ourselves. And we're going to go over different parts of self-care for mind, body, and spirit. So we're going to start off with the mind. Something as simple as aim to belly laugh, not just like a chuckle, not something, a cute little joke, really just that deep laugh from the inside. Something like watching something or speaking to someone that really makes you feel this intensity of laughter is something that can really bring out the joy and bring out all the endorphins, and just really aiming to laugh once a day can be so helpful. Burn incense for some aromatherapy. Oh yeah, so burn some incense for aromatherapy and really just
Sorry to interject, but you the smiling thing made me think of something that I told one of my patients to do a long time ago. She was so depressed, and I said, you know what? When you get home, look in the mirror and just start laughing. Fake it till you make it. And she was just like, that's so silly and so awkward. And I was like, just start laughing. And I guarantee the laughter is going to turn into a real one. And she came back the session. No doubt. She said I had a good laugh. So it does wonders.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. They've done research on like when you smile at a stranger, they smile back and it could change their complete day and outlook. So being able to have that as a resource, something simple for your daily life. Burning incense for some aromatherapy. There's plenty of scents that are soothing, that are relaxing. Also, there's certain scents that may remind you of a pleasant time, a pleasant experience. Like there's beach scents, and there's, the smell of pumpkin and pumpkin spice for the people that love the fall, things like that, that really can bring out the joy in our soul. Reading books that take you to worlds of possibility and promise. For those of you that like different genres of books and fiction, and just really being able to identify with the character. And, even if some of these stories are fiction, it's still an encouragement. I mean, that's why bringing that innate childlike thought process, like why children admire Superman and Batman, right? They're brave, they're strong, they're courageous. Those are things that we can take from characters in a book. Read quotes that inspire and ground you in your worthiness. At one point, the people writing these quotes once felt the insecurities, the fears, the stressors that we once felt. This is why they were able to create these masterpieces in quotes and writing. And this is why they speak to us, because they knew what we felt like being able to read something and say, wow, he really spoke to me. It's because they understood what that felt like at one point. Saying daily mantras that affirm you. If you speak it into existence, it will happen. And that has been proven many times. And I'm sure that everyone can pull an example from being very fearful of engaging in something or participating in something. And then you say, no, it's going to happen. We're going to do this. And it actually happens. It's being able to speak that daily mantra. Tidy your space. I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but being able to clean your desk, clean your office, clean your room, clean your house. Suddenly you light the candle, you put the music, and everything is just soothing after that. You feel like, that's it, I'm done for the day. So being able to have a clear space, a space that you can feng shui, as they call it, it can also be very helpful. Watching online or TV programming with messaging that makes you feel enriched and empowered. This is very important. Being able to outsource the way people just express themselves in such a positive way can just uplift us. And that's the power of social media. That's the power of being able to be connected with so many people at the palm of your hand, utilizing that as a resource. And writing in a journal, we've discussed this earlier, but being able to have your thoughts on paper sometimes is very helpful. And we use that as a strategy in therapy because we don't know it all. And we do not tell anybody that we know it all, but being able to speak it out loud, being able to write it down, suddenly the eureka moments come, like, oh, I should have done this, or I should have gone this route or that route. And we're just there to facilitate it, really. So being able to write it down, it would be tremendous for thought-provoking ideas and things of that nature.
So then we go to the body, right? So breathe. You might say, I breathe every day, all day long. What are you talking about? But it's really being in the moment to take the time to concentrate and be present, right? And breathe. So a lot of times we have our watches, we have phone apps, we have all this technology that will really help. If I was wearing my watch, at times throughout the day, it will just start like vibrating and shock me. And it's like, breathe. I'm like, oh yeah, I need to take time to actually breathe and not be 5 steps ahead, right? And so really taking time out to breathe. And you can do that in the morning when you're doing your 5 minutes of being present in the moment. You can do it in the shower, right? With the steam going, if you like hot showers and really taking time to breathe. You can take a walk and really kind of take that space and breathe and be present and see the colors and hear the sounds and all those sorts of things. So being present in the moment and breathe. This one is my favorite, the 5-minute dance break, all right? Because I can cut her up. I don't know about anyone, but my 2-step is very strong. And so taking the time to turn on one of my favorite songs and get lost in that space in between, like I said, patience. I'm here, I'm, very on point and professional, and in between when it stops, A 5-minute break, I have Alexa come on and hit the groove, and I take that 5 minutes. That's also very good for your spirit. And brings us to the next one about really stretching. If you're working from home or you're being present, a lot of times a lot of this, like the Zooms and the WebEx and the all the different platforms, and you're present here sitting for hours and hours and hours, and we have to get moving because prior to COVID-19, a lot of us at least move some time throughout the day. But if you're working from home and you are doing school from home and you're doing living from home, like you tend to be stationary. So we want to get up and we want to get moving and get some of those endorphins flowing throughout our bodies. So really taking the time, exercise. So you may not be a person that is like fully Taibo, Zumba, or you may be, right? If you are, I say kick it up. But if you are anything like me with exercise, then simple things of taking a walk, right? So I started incorporating taking a walk every single morning, no matter what is going on outside of rain. I get out there and I take a walk. In that space, it allows me just to be. And I feel the difference throughout my day. I can literally feel the difference that I set my day with this walk and allowed myself to be. Sleep. Sleep is another thing. I mean, meant to kind of keep running and I could just have a little less sleep, a little less sleep, a little less sleep. It's not healthy for your body. Your body needs to reset. It needs to shut all the way down and allow the processes to work and to reset your spirit and also your muscles and everything else that goes on within the body. So again, not having the all or nothing. It doesn't have to go from, well, I was having 2 hours of sleep and now you're saying I should get 8, 10, 12. My life doesn't fit that way. One foot in front of the other. So if you're having 2 hours of sleep, which I say is really a major problem, we may need to discuss this offline if you're just getting 2. But if you're getting 3, 4 hours of sleep, and just gradually create space so that you can have sleep. So meaning I have to shut it down. Maybe I have to put my phone in do not disturb. Maybe I'm online looking and searching, shopping, or just seeing what's going on. I have to take that away. Maybe I need to plan so I can get the kids in bed earlier to create space so I can get down and really go to sleep and lay down earlier. Maybe I need to set something, the aromatherapy, maybe not a candle, but set the aromatherapy that is safe for you to go to sleep and create that atmosphere. Maybe I need to use some oils, lavender or some type of scent to kind of calm myself, take a bath, take a shower, those type of things to set the mode for me to have a restful sleep. I talked about the baths and having Epsom salt. They come in different scents now. They have the lavender, they have peppermint, all types of things that you could really just utilize that space to set the tone for relaxation, and it's so critical. And right now, because we are in COVID times, it may not be the safest thing to go and get a massage, but you can still start saving for it. Put $1 away, right, in the little jar and say, I'm going to put this away. And then eventually, when I feel safe to go out, I'll have some money for my self care. That's something that you can do. So, certain items that may not be safe to do in this moment, in this time, doesn't mean that you cannot plan for it, right? One foot in front of the other and just activate your plan of self care. Yes,
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I have a quick question before we move on. So I have a question about the whole, I guess, the sleep music or the sleep voices that help you sleep. Like, how do you feel about those? Like, does your body completely shut down if it's actually in the process of hearing and listening to that? Like, I don't, I don't, I, I don't know. Just your opinion on it, because I've always thought about it, but then I'm like, okay, it's supposed to help you sleep, but do you really sleep? Because I hear everything kind of when I'm asleep. So, like, if you're supposed to allow your body to shut completely down, then is that really like a good choice?
Well, biologically, your body isn't fully shut down. Your brain is still functioning and it's still sending messages for your heart to pump blood, and it's still functioning. So your body goes into a sleep paralysis, so it's able to then heal itself from any type of illness, infection, etc. So for some people, that actually helps because some people in like, for example, for us, they mention in session that they're not able to sleep and they try really hard and they focus on sleeping. So being able to focus on something externally then takes the pressure off sleep and just allows the body to relax. So the natural REM just comes in and flows. So it really just depends on whether you prefer some type of music, some type of sound, or any type of like mindfulness meditation, sleep meditations. There's some people that need absolute darkness, absolute silence, and that's okay. So I just really is finding the best fit for you. And I will also say that if in trying any forms of meditation, you might want to give it a few tries, because some clients of ours also say like, well, I tried it last night, it doesn't work, so it will not work for me. So really being able to try a few times to really get the one that works best for you. But it's not for everybody. It's not. There's people that can fall asleep to any form of music. So it really just depends on what you are comfortable with at night.
And I would just like to add, it may not be like, if you're a really light sleeper, like you mentioned, Jennifer, that may not be it because it's distracting. But your sleep routine of prepping for sleep may be where you want to kind of focus your energy, right? So if you have no sleep routine to prepping, I can feel it in your reaction, then starting to implement one, right? So it may be that you need to take that additional shower to kind of calm down. Maybe you do need to 2 hours in advance light a candle to try to get in that space and start slowly creating boundaries with things, shutting it down, shutting it off, turning it off. A lot of us have our work emails connected to our personal phones, and I'm not going to say don't, but you may need to put it on do not disturb, right? So that you won't hear it clicking, especially with us, if you're working from home, people are working all types of hours of the night and day, and your phone can start buzzing and you start looking and you start off on a task. Or if you're on a social media, you can start looking this video, that video, and then it's hours. So it's really kind of disciplining yourself to start your bedtime routine or implementing a bedtime routine if you don't have one, to get prepared for that sleep, more than like, what am I going to do to actually activate the sleep? I'm preparing myself in time for sleep, being intentional about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One more thing about that as well is that sometimes, especially now that we're working from home, we may get into the habit of doing work on our beds. So that's a big no, because because we start making the connections that this space equals productivity, and therefore our brains will not fully rest. So having a space in the house to be able to be productive, to be able to have that space and energy, because your bedroom, your bed should be the sanctuary for rest, for recovery, and overall just healing. So being able to take the work outside in a different workspace, and that may be complicated for some, but trying, even if you have to do it on the corner of your bedroom somewhere, just not in the physical bed. So for those of you that work on the bed.
Oh, okay, we have.
But it's like your workplace that you have designated for your workplace is the most unproductive place you get the work done at.
Absolutely, because there's so many distractions.
For me, working on the bed is my nighttime. That puts me to sleep. So that's why I put it on the bed, so I can go to sleep. No, I'm just kidding. But you do have a raised hand from Ms. Falana.
Just to speak a little bit more on the, I guess, sleep music or meditative beats. Some of them are called binaural beats. And so we naturally have brain waves that tune into a certain frequency. So I don't know if you've ever been to a yoga class, and they'll have like certain sounds playing, or the sound of rain may make you feel more relaxed. And so those naturally, those tones naturally link up with our own, those sound waves naturally link up with our brain waves, and they induce a feeling in our bodies. And so if you do want to try sleep music, there are particular sound waves. I believe delta is the one for sleep, and also there's theta and alpha, but delta is mainly what is supposed to produce a deeper form of sleep. And they recommend that you use headphones and that you don't put it too loudly because you don't want it to be a distraction. And as you continue to practice with it, it's supposed to induce a sleep. And sometimes it doesn't work and sometimes it does. But, if you were interested, and just to give a little more background on that.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're now going to move on to spirits. This is something that some people struggle with a lot when it comes to self-care, creating healthy boundaries. A friendship turned toxic, a job taking over your entire life. How do we just shut off the job? How do we just disconnect from someone that we've known 10, 15, 20 years? The common expression of like, it's not sitting well in my spirit is something that we'll discuss in a little bit, but really being able to understand that some people just drain us. Some situations just really take out all the positivity in us. So being able to, if you can't cut it completely, because we can't just say, okay, that's it, I quit, goodbye, we need a check. Really just understanding what the healthy boundaries are. Like, for example, like we were discussing just now, putting the work emails on Do Not Disturb. We could see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. We will not see you tonight at 10 p.m. So being able to create healthy boundaries. One of the things that we also challenge patients and clients is to do mirror work. I know that Ms. Falana had mentioned about looking in the mirror. It's like advising one of her clients to look in the mirror and laugh. So we also do this for telling yourself how valuable you are. If you cannot tell yourself how valuable you are setting the tone for how other people will treat you. Mm-hmm. So that's very important to understand that every time you step out the door, you are setting the tone for how individuals and groups will treat you. So really understanding that the self-worth and self-value comes within and then goes outward. So I challenge everyone to do mirror work. Get into nature. We are from nature. We get our herbal practices. Our ancestors healed from nature. Therefore, just getting back in touch with it, walk barefoot in grass if you have access to grass, trying to see a sunset or a sunrise. There's infinite wisdom in nature. Just being able to observe animal life, plant life is just really getting back to something ancestral inside of us. Scheduling time for play and fun. This is something that we lose once we get into adulthood. Children really know how to play and make anything fun. It doesn't matter what it is. So even if you think it's impossible, trying to plan just a little bit of fun will go a long way in your routine. Screaming into a pillow. Sometimes this is better than screaming at someone else or screaming in an inappropriate situation. So being able to release that stress in an inanimate object. We also advise sometimes for children, like tightening up your palms so that the nerve endings can be stimulated. Different things like that will assist with releasing the stress. Taking care of a plant, that's become very, very popular as well. I cannot take care of a plant for my life, so that's something that I will be working on, but other people definitely have a more green thumb, nurturing. This is something that allows you to really see in vivo something growing that you nurtured, that is yours and only yours. So that's something very positive. Worship and pray in alignment with your spiritual practice. This is something that I very much emphasize with my own patients, with my own clients. I have no problem praying with my own clients, and Dr. Everett has also mentioned as well, like just really being able to be in tune with whoever, whatever you worship and pray to. And write things you're grateful for. One of the things that we do to protect ourselves is to always point out the negative. So writing down things that you're grateful for and really seeing that there's some positivity, the silver lining. These are all important factors to take into consideration when things maybe start becoming stressful in our lives.
And one of my favorite strategies, which is the belly. So we talk about cook some food of your favorite meal, right? Your favorite yum comfort food. I won't say that we necessarily have more time because of the pandemic or being home or sometimes working from home, but it appears because of location, if you are able to work from home, maybe multitasking, meaning that you can put something in the crock pot or put it in the oven or put it on the stove top and still kind of do both. So really being able to just be kind to yourself and say, listen, it makes me feel good. I'm going to have it. I can start counting my calories tomorrow, and just really indulge sometimes. Drink water. I know that daily I set this as my goal to drink. And water has such benefits for the body and for the soul, for the skin. So really trying to increase the amount of water. Food choices. I know that in the beginning of the pandemic, I'm sitting at my desk. I created another desk on the side of all the snacks that I felt was going to make my soul feel better. So I'm working and I'm snacking in between. I'm working and I have the phone on mute listening and trying to snack at the same time. It was a lot going on. So I say rechanneling. I say that you can have your favorite snack. You can have your, vanilla Oreos, but just limiting them and really trying to pick foods that will give you the best bang for your buck, give you energy, really be able to detoxify certain things within the body. So just being mindful. And then we have meal planning. You may not be able to plan the meal on Sunday and cook, or you may not even like that. You want hot food every single day that you make, but being intentional, not allowing yourself to eat chips for dinner because you didn't segue any time, right? I see the faces, time to really prepare something or get something. Eating and having a meal is important because that's showing yourself respect, that's showing yourself self-care, and you deserve to eat dinner. I know you're saying, what? What is that so simple? But yes, we have to remind ourselves that you deserve to eat dinner or you deserve to eat lunch, or if you're a breakfast person, then you deserve to eat breakfast. But carving out time, not letting that be something that gets cut off the list.
So next is art. And I just want to say, when it comes to art, art is everywhere. We are all works of art. So therefore, we need to constantly work on ourselves and create different versions of ourselves and really just transcend ourselves. So art is everywhere. So one of the things that we encourage is doodling. Even if you're not an artist, it can help with relieving stress and inspiring your imagination. I am notorious for writing and doodling notes on the side of everything, because whatever comes to mind, whatever thing that I said, okay, I want to create this, I want to write this, I want to do things. And, doodling is something that could be very helpful. Or drawing how you feel. This happens a lot with, especially we see it with clients that have difficulty expressing themselves and finding the words. So being able to draw out how you feel, you'll be surprised at how it expresses your emotions when you really can't find the exact right phrase. Finger painting with inexpensive paints. The combination of getting your fingers dirty and playing with the colors may be calming. Just getting your hands dirty and being able to create something, being able to put something on your office, little desk, anything that you could say, I created this, can just uplift. And memorize a song you love and sing your heart out. Music it triggers the memory response in our brain similar to a scent. So being able to hear that song and think about the college days, hearing a song and thinking about the, family gathering we went to, or remind us of someone special in our lives, a family member, being able to memorize a song and, sing that and uplift us is a very simple way. And training yourself to notice creative things in everyday life. Art is everywhere. Noticing it can open you up to the unexpected beauty of the world around you. This is why a lot of people like going to museums, going to botanical gardens, walking the beach, really early in the morning or really late at night. These are experiences that hit every single one of your senses. So it's a very quick way for calming. And write an affirmation letter to yourself. Really writing a letter and, you know, saying all the positive things about yourself, speaking about all the positive things you've accomplished this year. And really just whenever that negativity arises, being able to then pull it out and say, okay, look at everything I've accomplished, look at everything that I've done, and I just can only move up from here. So art is just one of the ways that really just, it is very simple and a very good strategy.
And lastly, we identified some links here. I think that's probably like a registration list that Ms. Gibbons can send out or copy and paste. But the first link is theterapistaid.com, and the worksheets are free, and they have a self-care assessment. I know we've been talking about self-care continuously, and we might not know where we fall. Like, you may think, I do care for myself. I, take showers and I take walks, but are you really being intentional? And this assessment helps to kind of see where you land on the spectrum, and see where you can add and increase, right? So it may be that you're not doing anything, but are you doing something that's going to really help you keep your plan sustainable and activating and implementing more into that area, or maintaining and making sure that you don't eliminate and start to eliminate as more pressure, as more tasks, as more things come your way. So you may not be able to jot this down or copy and paste it now, but we can send it out, or drop your email in the chat, and we'll make sure that you get these resources. And
thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for participating, for sharing. And we want to take this time for any questions, any thoughts, comments. And we also have our emails if anybody would like to contact us of any information moving forward.
No new questions or statements, just thank you. This was beneficial to me. I think the biggest takeaway, even though I shared, but I think just doing things with purpose, like for yourself within the actions that we do day to day. So being more direct and taking the time for ourselves. Thank you.
I really, sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I really appreciate the space to have these conversations, these discussions, and to hear from the experts and get some new resources that directly speak to, especially women of color. So I definitely appreciated this platform, and thank you, ladies.
mm-hmm.
Okay, so thank you everyone for participating. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, you can always email us at the emails below. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gibbons, for having us. Thank you for the platform. Thank you for listening. And again, these are our personal emails, and you can always feel free to reach out about what we're talking about with self-care, or if there's another topic or another piece or question or anything like that, we are readily available to assist.
As always, I have to thank my speakers. Thank you, Dr. Everett and Dr. Santos, for your expertise and your knowledge, and being able to impart it on our viewers. Why Not Inc., we are here to be of service. So I ask that you like and share. I ask that you follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, check us out on the website. We put on one of these every month. Our October one is how to remain sane while my teenager is driving me insane. So if you know any parents who are going through virtual learning and virtual parenting and virtual everything else and need an outlet, we'll be here again in October. But If you have any questions, comments, concerns, if you need to reach out, please do. And that's all I have for the night. So everyone have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.